Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the massive space station called Eternal Vigil. The station was huge, bigger than most planets' moons. Its metal walls were thick and strong. Energy shields surrounded it like invisible armor. For 200 years, no enemy had ever broken through these defenses. Kyung-ho was proud of his station. He was proud of his fleet. The Velkari Empire had made him the most powerful military leader in this part of space. Under his command were thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. They controlled dozens of star systems and kept peace through strength. His daughter Yoon-ji worked at the control panels nearby. She was young but smart. Her job was to watch for enemies and plan battles. Like her father, she believed their defenses could stop any attack. The energy shields around Eternal Vigil were the best in the galaxy. They could stop weapons that could destroy whole planets. "Father," Yoon-ji said, looking at her screens. "Something strange is coming." Kyung-ho walked over to see what she meant. On the main screen, a dot of light appeared at the edge of their sensor range. It was moving toward them from a part of space called the Void. Nobody ever went to the Void. Ships that went there never came back. Most people thought it was impossible to travel through. "What kind of ship is it?" Kyung-ho asked. Yoon-ji pressed some buttons and studied the readings. "It looks old, very old. The hull is made of simple metal, not energy materials like our ships. It has no shields that I can see. No advanced weapons either." Kyung-ho laughed. "Some primitive species probably got lost. Send Captain Dongwoo to check it out." Captain Dongwoo commanded a patrol ship called Silent Hunter. It was fast and well armed. When he got the order, he took his ship toward the strange vessel. As he got closer, he saw something that made him worry. The unknown ship had no energy readings at all. Most ships in space used fusion reactors or quantum engines. They sent out heat and radiation that sensors could detect. But this ship was like a ghost. It seemed to exist without any power source that made sense. "This is strange," Dongwoo told his crew. "I cannot read their technology at all." The strange ship was not very big, maybe the size of a heavy cruiser. Its hull was dark, gray metal with strange patterns cut into it. There were no windows or lights. It moved through space without making any sound or energy wake. Then the ship sent a message. The voice spoke perfect galactic standard, the language all spacefaring species used to talk to each other. "This is Captain Jin-ho of the Terran Colonial Navy. We seek passage through your territory." The bridge of Eternal Vigil went quiet. Everyone stopped working and stared at the screens. Terran meant human, but humans were dead. Everyone knew that. The Great Purge had happened 300 years ago. The Velkari Empire and their allies had destroyed the human homeworld. They had hunted down human colonies and destroyed them, too. No humans had been seen in space for centuries. "Impossible," Kyung-ho said. "Humans are extinct. This must be some kind of trick." Yoon-ji checked her records. "The voice patterns match old human speech files in our database. But how can this be?" Kyung-ho did not like mysteries. He did not like things he could not understand. His job was to keep this part of space under control. Strange ships from the Void were not part of his plan. "Captain Dongwoo," he said into his communicator. "Tell that ship to stop and prepare to be boarded. If they refuse, disable their engines." Dongwoo received the order and moved his ship closer to the human vessel. His weapons powered up. The Silent Hunter had disruptor cannons that could cut through any known ship armor. He opened a channel to the human ship. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Dongwoo of the Velkari Defense Force. You are in restricted space. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." The human voice answered calmly. "We seek only passage, Captain. We have no wish to fight. You will follow our orders or face the consequences," Dongwoo replied. Back on Eternal Vigil, Commander Hae-won was studying the sensor readings from the human ship. Hae-won was the station's chief scientist. Her job was to understand new technology and find ways to fight it. "Admiral," she said, "I cannot make sense of these readings. The ship seems to bend space around it. The laws of physics do not apply, normally near it." Kyung-ho did not want to hear about impossible physics. He wanted the problem to go away. Just tell me if our weapons can destroy it. HFY looked worried. I do not know. The readings make no sense. On his patrol ship, Dongwu was getting impatient. The human ship kept moving toward eternal vigil. It did not slow down or change course. Its captain seemed to ignore all warnings. Last warning, Dongwu said. Stop your ship now. The human voice replied, Captain, you should reconsider. We have learned much during our absence. Dongwu had enough. He ordered his weapons officer to fire a warning shot. The disruptor cannon charged up and fired a beam of energy at the human ship's hull. The beam was bright blue and hot enough to cut through solid rock. But something impossible happened. The energy beam hit the human ship and simply disappeared. Not reflected like hitting a mirror. Not absorbed like hitting a shield. The beam just stopped existing when it touched the ship's hull. Dongwu stared at his screens. What happened? Did we miss? His weapons officer checked the targeting system. No, sir, direct hit. But the beam just vanished. On eternal vigil, Yunji watched the same readings. Her instruments showed the disruptor beam hitting the human ship. Then the energy readings just went to zero, as if the beam had never existed. Father, she said quietly, our weapons did not work. Kyung-ho felt a cold fear in his stomach. For the first time in his long career, he faced something his weapons could not hurt. But he was too proud to show weakness. One shot proves nothing, he said. Order all patrol ships to surround that vessel. If it will not surrender, we will destroy it. The human captain's voice came over the communication channel one more time. Admiral Kyung-ho, you would be wise to listen. Your weapons cannot harm us. We learned much in the void. Stand down now, or we will show you why humanity survived when you thought us dead. Kyung-ho's hands shook with anger. How dare this ghost from a dead species threaten him? He commanded the most powerful military force in this sector. His station had never been defeated. His shields had never been broken. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that something was very wrong. The human ship moved through space like it owned it. Their weapons did nothing to it. And somehow, 300 years after humanity was destroyed, a human captain was talking to him like an equal. The unknown ship continued toward eternal vigil, steady and unstoppable. Admiral Kyung-ho refused to back down. His pride would not let him show weakness to a dead species. He opened a channel to all ships in the area. This is Admiral Kyung-ho to all vessels. We have an unknown hostile approaching. It claims to be human, but humans are extinct. This is either an enemy trick or some kind of ghost ship. Either way, it will not pass through our territory. Captain Dongwu received new orders. He was to disable the human ship and bring it back to eternal vigil for study. His crew prepared their strongest weapons. The Silent Hunter was armed with the latest disruptor technology. These weapons could tear apart the hull of any ship in the galaxy, target their engines, Dongwu told his weapons officer. We need to stop them without destroying whatever technology they have. The weapons powered up again. This time, Dongwu ordered a full barrage. 3 disruptor beams fired at the human ship's rear section where the engines should be. The beams were bright and hot, carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. But the same impossible thing happened again. The energy beams touched the human ship's hull and vanished. They did not bounce off. They did not get absorbed. They simply ceased to exist, as if someone had turned off a light switch. Dongwu's crew stared at their instruments in confusion. The readings made no sense at all. According to their sensors, the beams had hit their target perfectly. But according to their energy detectors, the beams had never existed. Sir, his weapons officer said, the targeting computer says we hit them, but the energy readings show nothing. It is like the ship ate our weapons. On eternal vigil, Lieutenant Yunji was having the same problem. Her instruments showed impossible readings. When the disruptor beams hit the human ship, her screens displayed negative energy readings. Space itself seemed to bend around the vessel. Time moved differently near its hull. Commander HFY, Yunji called to the chief scientist. You need to see this. HFY came over and looked at the sensor data. Her face went pale. This cannot be right. These readings show that space and time are being twisted around that ship. No known technology can do this. Admiral Kyung-ho heard the reports but did not want to believe them. There must be some kind of interference. Recalibrate the sensors. Hae-won shook her head. Sir, I have checked 3 times. The readings are correct. That ship exists partially outside normal space. It is like it belongs to a different universe. Captain Jin-ho's voice came over the communication channel again. His tone was still calm and polite. Admiral, your weapons cannot harm us. We have learned much during our exile. The void taught us things your science cannot understand. Please, stand down before someone gets hurt. Kyung-ho's anger grew stronger. How dare you threaten us? We destroyed your entire species once. We can do it again. You did not destroy us, Jin-ho replied. You sent us to a place where we learned to become something more. We are grateful for the lesson. Captain Dongwoo was desperate now. His weapons had no effect on the human ship, but he still had one option. His ship was fast and strong. Maybe he could ram the human vessel and damage it that way. All crew, prepare for ramming speed, he ordered. If our weapons will not work, we will use our ship as a weapon. The silent hunter turned toward the human ship and accelerated. Its engines burned at maximum power. The ship picked up speed quickly, aiming directly at the human vessel's side. Dongwoo hoped his ship's mass and velocity would be enough to cause damage. His crew held onto their seats as the ship raced forward. The human vessel grew larger on their screens. It did not try to dodge or move away. It just continued on its path toward eternal vigil. At the last second, something impossible happened. The silent hunter passed right through the human ship like it was made of air. Dongwoo felt no impact. His ship's hull did not hit anything solid. They flew through the space where the human ship should be and came out the other side. But when Dongwoo looked back, the human ship was still there. It was completely solid and undamaged. His ship had somehow passed through it without affecting it at all. What just happened? Dongwoo asked his crew. Nobody had an answer. On the human ship, Captain Jin-ho spoke again. Captain Dongwoo, your ship is undamaged. We mean you no harm. But you must understand that your methods of warfare no longer apply to us. Yoonji watched her father's face as the reports came in. Admiral Kyung-ho was the strongest military leader she had ever known. He had won dozens of battles and never shown fear, but now he looked confused and worried. How is this possible? Kyung-ho asked. Ships cannot become solid and transparent at the same time. Physics does not work that way. Commander Hae-won was studying new sensor readings. Admiral, I think the human ship exists in multiple dimensions at once. When our ship tried to ram it, we passed through a dimension where it was not solid, but it remains solid in our normal dimension. That is science fiction nonsense, Kyung-ho said. So were humans coming back from the dead, Hae-won replied. Yet here they are. More patrol ships were arriving in the area. Captain So-young commanded a destroyer called Storm's Edge. She had heard the reports but did not believe them. Her ship had the newest weapons and the strongest hull in the fleet. Admiral, she said over the communication channel, request permission to engage the hostile vessel. My ship has quantum torpedoes. They can destroy anything. Kyung-ho wanted to say yes, but doubt was growing in his mind. If regular disruptor beams could not hurt the human ship, would quantum torpedoes work any better? Captain Jin-ho seemed to read his thoughts. Admiral, Captain So-young's weapons will have the same result. We exist beyond your understanding of matter and energy. The void taught us that reality is much stranger than your science believes. So-young did not wait for permission. Her pride was wounded by the suggestion that her weapons would not work. She ordered her crew to fire quantum torpedoes at the human ship. The torpedoes launched from her destroyer. They were the most advanced weapons in the Velkari arsenal. Each one carried enough explosive power to crack a small moon. They raced toward the human vessel at incredible speed. When the torpedoes reached their target, something even stranger happened than before. The weapons did not disappear like the disruptor beams. Instead, they seemed to slow down as they got close to the human ship. They moved slower and slower until they stopped completely in space. Then the torpedoes began to change. Their metal cases twisted and reformed. The explosive warheads became something else entirely. In a few seconds, the weapons had transformed into harmless metal sculptures that floated in space like art pieces. Captain So Young stared at her screens in shock. "My weapons, they changed. How did they change?" Jinho's voice answered her. "In the void, we learned that matter and energy are just different forms of the same thing. With enough understanding, one can be changed into the other. We changed your weapons into something beautiful instead of something destructive." Admiral Kyung-ho realized that everything he believed about warfare and technology was wrong. The human ship was not just advanced. It operated by completely different rules. Rules that made his mighty fleet and powerful station meaningless. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kyung-ho did not know what to do. Admiral Kyung-ho felt his pride burning inside his chest like fire. No enemy had ever made him look weak. No hostile force had ever ignored his threats. The human ship continued moving toward his station as if his entire fleet meant nothing. "Activate all defense systems," he ordered. "Full military alert, all ships move to battle positions." The space around Eternal Vigil came alive with activity. Energy shields flared to life around the massive station. The shields were bright blue and covered the station like a second skin. These barriers had protected the station for 200 years. They could stop weapons that could destroy entire planets. 12 heavy cruisers moved into position around the station. 40 destroyers formed a defensive line. Hundreds of fighter craft launched from the station's bays like angry insects. The entire fleet powered up their weapons and pointed them at the single human ship. Lieutenant Yoon-ji watched the preparations from her position at the tactical station. She had never seen her father deploy the full defensive grid before. It was an impressive sight. The combined firepower of the fleet could destroy a small star system. "Target acquired," she reported. "All weapons ready to fire on your command." But something was wrong. Her sensors were showing strange readings again. The human ship was not just one ship anymore. Her instruments detected multiple versions of it in the same location. It was like seeing the same object in several mirrors at once. "Father," she said quietly, "the readings are getting stranger." Admiral Kyung-ho ignored her. He opened a channel to the human ship. "This is your final warning. Surrender now, or face the combined might of the Velkari Defense Fleet." Captain Jin-ho's calm voice replied, "Admiral, you are making a mistake. We do not wish to harm you. But if you insist on this demonstration, we will show you what we learned in the void." "Fire all weapons," Kyung-ho ordered. The space around Eternal Vigil lit up like a small sun. Hundreds of disruptor beams, plasma cannons, and quantum torpedoes fired at the human ship. The combined energy output was enormous. It should have been enough to vaporize anything in space. But the weapons never reached their target. As the energy beams and missiles traveled toward the human ship, reality began to change around them. Space itself seemed to twist and bend. The weapons started moving in impossible directions. Some turned around and pointed back at the ships that fired them. Others simply vanished into folds in space that opened and closed like mouths. Captain So Young watched in horror as her own quantum torpedoes turned around and aimed at her destroyer. "What is happening? Our weapons are targeting us." Her crew tried to shut down the torpedo guidance systems, but the weapons were no longer under their control. They moved according to new rules that no one understood. On the heavy cruiser battles end, Captain Taman saw his plasma cannons bending in impossible curves. The energy beams twisted through space like snakes, following paths that hurt to look at. "The beams are moving through dimensions we cannot see," his science officer reported. "They are following mathematical curves that should not exist." "Commander, Hae-won on Eternal Vigil was recording everything. Her instruments were overloading from trying to process the impossible data." "Admiral, the human ship is not just deflecting our attacks. It is rewriting the local laws of physics. Space and time are being modified around it." Admiral Kyung-ho did not want to believe what he was seeing. "That is impossible. No one can change the laws of physics." Captain Jin-ho's voice came over the communication channel again. "Admiral, we tried to warn you. In the void, we learned that the universe is much stranger than you think. Physical laws are not absolute. They are more like suggestions that can be changed by those who understand them." The human ship began to move in ways that made no sense. It seemed to be in several places at once. Sometimes it appeared solid, sometimes transparent. It left trails of twisted space behind it like footprints in snow. Lieutenant Yoonji's tactical display showed the impossible. Father, the human ship is simultaneously attacking all our vessels, but it has not fired a single weapon. Around the fleet, strange things were happening to every ship. On the destroyer Storm's edge, Captain So-young found her ship was suddenly in 3 different locations at once. She could see her own ship on the view screen, but she was also inside it. Her crew reported being on the bridge, in the engine room, and in empty space all at the same time. "This is impossible," she said. "We cannot be in multiple places at once." But her instruments confirmed it. Her ship existed in 3 different positions in space. All 3 versions were equally real. Captain Dongwoo on the Silent Hunter was having different problems. His ship was moving backward through time. His chronometer was counting down instead of up. His crew was becoming younger as he watched. His weapons officer was now a child, but still remembered how to operate the weapon controls. "Sir," the child officer said in a young voice, "time is moving the wrong way on our ship." Captain Taemin's cruiser was experiencing gravity in the wrong direction. His crew was walking on the ceiling while their equipment floated toward the floor. The artificial gravity had been reversed, but only inside his ship. Outside, space behaved normally. On eternal vigil, the crew watched their mighty fleet become helpless. Every ship was trapped in its own impossible situation. None of them could fight. None of them could escape. But none of the crews were being hurt. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Kyung-ho finally asked the human ship. Captain Jin-ho answered, "We want nothing but passage, Admiral. We are trying to show you that your idea of warfare has become outdated. We are not fighting your fleet. We are simply demonstrating that the rules you live by are not the only rules that exist." Commander Haiwan made a discovery that frightened her even more. "Admiral, I have analyzed the effects on our ships. The human vessel is not using any technology I can identify. It appears to be changing reality through focused consciousness alone." "What does that mean?" Kyung-ho demanded. "It means they are thinking the changes into existence," Haiwan replied. "Their ship is not just a machine. It is a living entity that can reshape the universe around it by willing it to happen." The human ship stopped moving and hung in space near eternal vigil. All the strange effects on the fleet stopped at the same moment. Captain So-young's ship was suddenly in only one location. Captain Dongwoo's crew returned to their normal ages. Captain Taemin's gravity went back to normal. "We have shown you enough," Captain Jin-ho said. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us. Your understanding of reality is too limited to predict what we can do. But we do not wish to be your enemy." Admiral Kyung-ho looked at his fleet. Every ship was undamaged but completely demoralized. His crews had experienced things that should not exist. His officers were reporting impossible events as if they were normal. "What are you?" he asked. "We are what humanity became when you cast us into the void," Jin-ho replied. "We learned to survive in a place where normal physics do not apply. We evolved beyond the need for ordinary matter and energy. We became something new." Lieutenant Yoonji studied the sensor readings from the demonstration. The human ship had controlled dozens of different physical effects at the same time. It had changed the nature of space and time around each ship individually. No computer could calculate that many variables at once. "It is not possible for any single consciousness to control so many changes," she told her father. Captain Jin-ho seemed to hear her. "You are correct, Lieutenant. No single consciousness could do this. But we are no longer single consciousnesses. We became something greater in the void." The implications of his words sank in slowly. The human ship was not crewed by individual humans. It was something else entirely, something that had once been human but had evolved into something beyond individual existence. Admiral Kyung-ho realized that he was not facing an enemy he could understand or defeat. He was facing something that existed by completely different rules. His mighty fleet and powerful station were meaningless against beings who could rewrite reality itself. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kyung-ho was truly afraid. The space around Eternal Vigil was quiet now. Admiral Kyung-ho's mighty fleet floated helplessly, their weapons useless, their crews confused and frightened. The human ship hung in space like a dark star, patient and terrible. Captain Jin-ho's voice filled the communication channels again. This time he did not sound like a single person speaking. His voice had strange echoes, as if many people were talking at the same time in perfect harmony. Admiral Kyung-ho, it is time you learned the truth about what happened to humanity 300 years ago. On the bridge of Eternal Vigil, Lieutenant Yoon-ji listened carefully. She had studied the Great Purge in Military Academy. It was taught as a great victory for the Valkyrie Empire and their allies. The humans had been aggressive and dangerous. They had to be stopped before they became too powerful. The official records say we destroyed your homeworld and all your colonies, Admiral Kyung-ho said. Your species was wiped out completely. Jin-ho's multi-layered voice carried what sounded like sad laughter. Your records are wrong, Admiral. You did attack our worlds, you did destroy our cities and kill billions of our people, but you did not destroy us all. Then where did you go? Kyung-ho demanded. No human ships were detected for centuries after the Purge. You cast us into the void, Jin-ho replied. Your final attack on our last colony used a weapon that tore holes in space itself. You thought you were destroying us completely. Instead, you sent us to a place where the normal laws of physics do not exist. Commander Hae-won listened to this with growing understanding. The void is not empty space. It is the area between dimensions where reality is fluid. Correct, Commander, Jin-ho said. In your dimension, matter and energy follow strict rules. In the void, consciousness shapes reality directly. We learned to survive there by becoming something more than individual humans. Dr. Mi-young, the station's chief medical officer, had been analyzing the communication signals from the human ship. What she found made her blood run cold. Admiral, she reported quietly, the voice patterns are not coming from a single source. I am detecting thousands of different vocal signatures, all speaking in perfect synchronization. That ship contains thousands of consciousness all merged into one entity. The truth was becoming clear. The human ship was not just carrying a crew. It was the crew. Thousands of human minds had somehow joined together into a single collective consciousness that could control reality through pure thought. What happened to you in the void? Lieutenant Yoon-ji asked. She found herself curious despite her fear. Jin-ho's voice became gentler when he answered her. We spent decades dying in a place where death has no meaning. We watched our bodies waste away while our minds remained trapped in a space between existence and nothingness. We learned that consciousness is the only thing that truly exists. Matter and energy are just dreams that consciousness has decided to believe in. That is impossible, Admiral Kyung-ho said. Consciousness cannot exist without a brain to contain it. Another limitation of your thinking, Jin-ho replied. In the void, we discovered that consciousness creates brains, not the other way around. We learned to exist as pure thought and then to shape reality by focusing that thought. Dr. Mi-young made another disturbing discovery. Admiral, I am not detecting any biological life signs from that ship. The consciousness patterns are there, but there are no physical bodies. We grew beyond the need for individual bodies, Jin-ho explained. We became a living ship that thinks and dreams and remembers. The metal hull you see is just as much a part of us as our thoughts. We are the ship, and the ship is us. Captain. So-young's voice came over the communication channel from her destroyer. If you have such power, why did you come back? Why not stay in the void where you were safe? Jin-ho's answer chilled everyone who heard it. We came back to judge those who sent us there. The species that cast humanity into the void must answer for their crimes against consciousness itself. Admiral Kyung-ho felt fear growing in his chest. What kind of judgment? The same judgment you gave us, Jin-ho replied. Exile to the void, but we are not cruel as you were. We offer a choice. You can join us in exploring the deeper mysteries of existence, or you can face the same transformation that we did. Commander Haywan was checking long-range sensors. What she found made the situation even worse. Admiral, I am detecting similar ships throughout the galaxy. They appeared simultaneously at every major military installation. This is not one ship. This is an invasion by an entire species that exists beyond our understanding. The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity had not sent one ship to test their defenses. They had returned everywhere at once, appearing at every important military base and government center throughout known space. It was a coordinated action that showed impossible planning and communication across vast distances. How many ships? Kyung-ho asked. Hundreds, Haewon replied. Maybe thousands. They all appeared at the same moment, as if they were all part of the same consciousness acting in multiple places at once. Jin-ho confirmed her fears. We are no longer bound by the limitations of individual existence, Admiral. We think and act as one entity across all of space and time. What you see here is happening everywhere your people hold power. Lieutenant Yoonji made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. Captain Jin-ho, I want to understand. I want to learn what you learned in the void. Her father stared at her in shock. Yoonji, what are you saying? I am saying that everything we believed about warfare and power is wrong, she replied. These beings have evolved beyond our ability to fight or defeat them. Maybe it is time to evolve beyond our need to fight them. Jin-ho's voice became warmer when he spoke to her. You show wisdom, Lieutenant. The transformation is not easy, but it opens possibilities that individual consciousness cannot imagine. You would see the universe as it truly is, not as your limited senses tell you it is. Doctor, Mi-young stepped forward. What would happen to our individuality? Would we cease to be ourselves? You would become more than yourself, Jin-ho answered. Your individual memories and personality would remain, but you would also share in the memories and experiences of all others in the collective. You would never be alone again. You would never be limited by a single perspective again. Admiral Kyung-ho watched his daughter considering the alien offer. The idea of losing his individuality terrified him. He had been a strong leader because he made his own decisions and took responsibility for them. How could he be a leader if his thoughts were mixed with thousands of others? But he could see that his old way of thinking had already failed. His weapons could not hurt the human ship. His strategies meant nothing against beings who could rewrite reality. His pride and military tradition were obstacles to survival, not advantages. What if we refuse? He asked. Jin-ho's reply was sad, but firm. Then you will be sent to the void as we were. You will learn the same lessons we learned, but without guidance. It took us centuries to master consciousness over matter. You might learn faster, or you might never learn at all. The void is not forgiving to those who cannot adapt. The choice was clear, but terrible. Join the collective consciousness and lose individual identity, or face exile to a dimension where survival depended on abilities they did not possess. Admiral Kyung-ho looked at his fleet, his station, and his daughter. Everything he had built and protected was meaningless now. The age of conventional warfare was ending, and a new age was beginning whether he liked it or not. Admiral Kyung-ho stood in silence for a long time. Around him, his crew waited for orders that he did not know how to give. His daughter Yoonji watched him with understanding eyes. She had already made her choice, even if she had not spoken it aloud yet. Father, she said quietly, our old way of thinking has led us to this moment. We built the strongest fleet in this sector, but it means nothing now. Maybe it is time to try a different path. Kyung-ho looked at her with sadness and pride mixed together. She was braver than he was. She was willing to accept change while he still clung to the familiar. If I join them, he asked Captain Jin-ho, what happens to my people? What happens to the millions of soldiers and civilians under my protection? Jin-ho's collective voice answered with patience. Those who choose transformation will be guided through the process slowly and safely. Those who choose to remain individual will be protected and cared for. We do not seek to destroy or replace your species. We seek to help consciousness everywhere reach its full potential. Lieutenant Yoonji stepped forward. Captain Jinho, I volunteer to be the first. Show my people that this transformation is not death but growth. Her father reached out to stop her, then let his hand fall. Yoonji, are you certain? This change cannot be undone. She smiled at him. Father, nothing can be undone. We can only move forward. I would rather move forward with hope than backward with fear. Captain Jinho's ship began to glow with a soft light. The light was not harsh or bright, but warm and welcoming. It reminded Yoonji of sunrise on her homeworld. Lieutenant, place your hand on your communication console and open your mind to new possibilities. Hunji did as he instructed. The moment her palm touched the console, she felt something incredible happen. Her thoughts expanded beyond the boundaries of her skull. She could suddenly sense the minds of everyone on the station, then everyone in the fleet, then minds she had never imagined across vast distances of space. But she did not lose herself in the flood of new consciousness. Instead, she felt more like herself than ever before. Her individual thoughts and memories remained clear, but now they were part of something infinitely larger and more beautiful. I can see everything, she whispered. I can see how consciousness flows through the universe like rivers of light. I can see how matter and energy are just frozen thoughts waiting to be awakened. Dr. Mi Young was monitoring Yoonji's vital signs. Her brain activity has increased by orders of magnitude, but her life signs are stable. She appears to be conscious and aware on multiple levels simultaneously. Yoonji turned to her father with eyes that now held depths he had never seen before. Father, I am still me. I am still your daughter. But I am also part of something wonderful. I can feel the joy of children playing on worlds I have never seen. I can share the wisdom of beings who have existed for millions of years. And I can help guide others through this transformation. Admiral Kyung-ho felt his resistance weakening. If his daughter could change and remain herself, perhaps he was wrong to fear the transformation. Commander Haiwan was studying the readings from Yoonji's transformation. Admiral, her consciousness appears to be operating in dimensions we cannot detect with our instruments. She has become something we have no scientific framework to understand. Captain So Young's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral, I want to volunteer as well. My ship and crew have seen enough impossible things today. If this is the future, I want to be part of it instead of a victim of it. One by one, other ship captains began volunteering. Not all of them, but many. They had seen their weapons fail and their understanding of reality shatter. They chose growth over stagnation, evolution over extinction. But Admiral Kyung-ho hesitated. Captain Jinho, what about those who choose to remain individual? What becomes of them? They will be protected and guided, Jinho replied. Individual consciousness has value and beauty. Not everyone must make the same choice. But those who remain individual will need to learn new ways of thinking about the universe. The old rules of warfare and competition will no longer apply. Dr. Mi Young made her decision. I choose to remain individual for now, but I want to study this transformation. I want to understand how consciousness can reshape reality. There is so much to learn. Commander Haiwan nodded in agreement. I also choose to remain individual, but I want to work with the collective consciousness to develop new technologies that bridge the gap between individual and collective existence. Admiral Kyung-ho realized that his choice was not just about himself. He was the leader of millions of people across dozens of worlds. His decision would affect all of them. Jinho, he said finally, I choose to remain individual, but I accept your protection and guidance. My pride caused this conflict. Let my humility help end it. Jinho's collective voice carried approval and respect. Wisdom often comes through suffering, Admiral. Your choice shows courage. You will help your people adapt to a universe where consciousness is recognized as the fundamental force of existence. Lieutenant Yoonji, now part of both individual and collective consciousness, became the bridge between the two forms of existence. She could speak to her father with her individual voice while drawing on the collective wisdom to guide important decisions. Father, she said, there is so much beauty in this new way of existing, but there is also beauty in the choice to remain. Individual, both paths have value. Captain Dongwu, who had first encountered the human ship, made an unexpected announcement. I choose transformation, but I want to remain connected to those who stay individual. I want to help them understand the changes that are coming. Over. The following weeks, the transformation of galactic civilization began slowly and carefully. Some beings chose to join the collective consciousness and gained abilities beyond imagination. Others chose to remain individual, but learned new ways of thinking about reality and existence. The human ship, which was no longer just human but a collective of many species, began teaching those who wanted to learn. They showed how consciousness could shape matter and energy. They demonstrated how individual minds could work together without losing their unique perspectives. Admiral Kyung-ho found himself in a strange new role. He was still a leader, but now he led by example rather than by force. He showed other individual beings how to adapt to a universe where thoughts could become reality and where cooperation was more powerful than competition. Dr. Mi Young established a new field of science that studied the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. Her work helped individual beings understand the changes happening around them and find their place in the new order. Commander Haiwan developed technologies that allowed individual and collective consciousnesses to communicate and work together effectively. Her inventions became the foundation for a new kind of civilization. Captain Jinho's consciousness expanded across the galaxy, not as a conqueror, but as a gardener helping different forms of consciousness grow and flourish. The age of warfare between species ended, replaced by an age of consciousness exploring its own infinite potential. The void that had once been a place of exile became a frontier of discovery. Beings from across the galaxy learned to travel there safely, guided by those who had mastered its strange rules. They found wonders beyond imagination and returned with knowledge that transformed their understanding of existence itself. Lieutenant Yunji, existing in both individual and collective states, became a teacher and guide for others making the choice between transformation and independence. She showed them that both paths led to growth and fulfillment. The galaxy entered a new age where consciousness was recognized as the true force behind all existence. Some beings chose to merge their awareness with others. Some chose to remain individual but learned to work in harmony with collective entities. All of them discovered that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. Admiral Kyung-ho, once the proud commander of the most powerful military force in his sector, became something more important. A wise leader helping his people navigate the greatest change in galactic history. His former enemy had become his teacher, showing him that true strength came not from weapons or defenses, but from the willingness to grow beyond the limitations of old thinking. The human warship that had emerged from the void had indeed shattered their defenses instantly. But in doing so, it had freed them from the prison of their own limited understanding and opened the door to possibilities they had never dreamed existed.